All right, good morning, everyone. I'd like to call the zoning hearing to order. Today is June 5th, 2024, and the time is 9:32 a.m. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated. Okay. We have two items on the agenda today. I would like to recognize our zoning staff to introduce the first case.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Mercy Groth, a Senior Planner with the Department of Community Development Zoning Section. The first case on the agenda today is the request to amend the Town Lakes RPD CPD from Resolution Z-99-022 to allow an additional 140,000 square feet of floor area for a mini warehouse and hybrid warehouse use. To add the hybrid warehouse and open storage to the approved schedule of uses and establish a maximum building height of 45 feet for tract A through N. The property is located at 619/625 Williams Avenue in the Lehigh Acres Planning Community. It resides in the Central Urban Future Land Use category and is zoned commercial plan development. And I am here for any further questions.
All right. At this time, does the board have any questions for staff? No. Okay. Seeing none. Would the applicant like to make a presentation?
Fred Droblik from RVI Planning. For the record, I'm just here for questions.
Okay. Any questions for the applicant at this time? Nope. Okay. Seeing none. There's one participant of record, Derek Felder. Is Derek Felder here? Okay, he is not.
Okay, Mr. Chairman,
Yep.
I'll move approval of the hearing examiner recommendation.
Okay.
Second that.
We have a motion to approve from Commissioner Hammond, a second from Commissioner Rain. Any further discussion? Seeing none, it's unanimous 4-0. Please introduce item number 2. Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. For the record, my name is Beth Workman. I'm a principal planner in the zoning section. The next case before you today is Sunnyland Town Center Commercial Plan Development. Case number DCI 2023-00010. The applicant is requesting to amend an existing resolution for commercial plan development that was approved, Resolution Z06090. The applicant wishes to revise the master concept plan and is proposing two different options for development. The first option is 265,000 square feet of commercial floor area and 100,000 square feet of a mini warehouse, or option 2, 100,000 square feet of commercial uses, 100,000 square feet of a mini warehouse, and 300 dwelling units, only on parcel 2. The hearing examiner recommended approval with conditions. There were 4 participants of record. The project is located in Lehigh Acres, and it is north of Lee Boulevard, and it is separated by Sunnyland Boulevard, which is a county-maintained road. The project is within the Central Urban Future Land Use category and is within the mixed-use overlay. The mixed-use overlay affords reduced buffering and reduced parking for the project at time of development order. As I mentioned, it is commercial plan development at this time. This is an amendment. The master concept plan that you see before you allows for those two options. The parcel 2 is on the east side, and it is labeled with the multifamily on that master concept plan. Applicant and staff are here for questions.
At this time, board have any questions for staff? Okay. Seeing none, would the applicant like to make a presentation?
Good morning, Neil Montgomery for the record. The applicant's team is here. We don't want to make a presentation. We know that one of the people who spoke at the hearing is here, and so if you have questions after that, we'd be happy to respond.
All right, thank you. Okay, at this time, I have 4 participants of record. I have a card right now for Marcia Ellis. Come on up, Marcia.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Good morning.
Hold off on the clock, please. I do have new evidence that I submitted according to the notice requirements ahead of time. So I am sharing that with you.
Commissioners, we have reviewed the information that's provided and it's inappropriate for you to receive it.
Okay, so
Inappropriate?
please don't hand it to us. Yeah, and Mr. Chairman, we did have a rule here where you're not really supposed to approach the dais.
Yes,
You're supposed to hand things to the clerk.
I'm
And I
sorry.
noticed that rule's kind of been violated a couple times
Well,
in recent memory.
in all due respect, Commissioner Hammond, I did give some materials just with the water supply, and that wasn't an issue. I approached the dais at that time, and I understand you're choosing to reprimand me now. However, I'm just going to point out that inconsistency. And so,
I appreciate that. Thanks so much. That was really valuable.
Okay, so I didn't have opportunity to speak with the attorney there, so please let us know that it's not information that we can receive.
We have reviewed it. It's not new relevant information that was presented at the hearing, and it's inappropriate for you to hear or to receive the written document that she is trying to present to you.
Okay, thank you.
She can present her testimony that she presented at the hearing, and there's no issue with that.
Okay, thank you. Marcia, please go ahead.
thank you. First of all, I would like to establish standing exception on procedural issues in regard to my new evidence being rejected for any future review. Secondly, I had spoke originally, and I stand by my questions that I brought forth, which remain in part unanswered, hence the new evidence that I attempted to bring forward, primarily related to contamination, and that would be contamination associated with the illegal dumping which took place on the interior indigenous preserves, as well as the historical oil well use. Both dumping and oil well use are associated with PFAS and other contamination, with concern for the moving of any contamination through the groundwater system into...
Mr. Chairman, I have to pose an objection at this point in time. This testimony is going beyond the scope of the testimony provided at the hearing, and it's not
Okay.
relevant.
I will then refer to County Attorney. Can you please?
Is this is going into the information you presented in your
Yes,
letter?
sir. And you
Yes,
can,
it's
that's
inappropriate.
perfectly available to all parties. I assume that the commissioners have reviewed that prior to me appearing before you today. And these were issues that were brought up at the original zoning hearing.
The applicants indicated this is outside the scope of the testimony that was presented at the hearing, and it's inappropriate for you to hear it.
Okay. All right, please, Marcia, try to
Thank you.
stay within what they're
So,
saying.
sir, what I'm concerned about is illegal dumping, which on violations in indigenous preserve, which cleared the area for the intensification that's brought before you in an area that has been determined to be central urban. What I mean by that is area that you would expect there to be adequate public facilities to protect public health. The folks that live around this intensification in the central urban area are reliant upon domestic self-supply wells. And there are many children considering that there is an elementary school contiguous. So concerns for public health were brought up, and those continue to be emerging and evolving. I'm going to refer to the CERCLA rules that were brought in on May 8th, which can go backward. And part of CERCLA working so that municipalities aren't left with the burden of PFAS is that when there are commercial developments that are taking place, that the responsible parties are identified for the liability to clean up places like oil wells and illegal dumping to protect public health. There are also up to 34 gopher tortoises on this site, 28 burrows. This really should be considered for acquisition and remediation to residential standards if we're talking about bringing in apartments, which are sure to bring even more children into this area. I just ask commissioners that you do your duty and responsibility, and that we look towards our community, the development community, to lead the way as we are addressing emerging emerging contaminants, and that they bring forth the testing and make it available to inform the public of public health risk that are on properties that they're responsible for. I just say that, testing is sure to follow this case because it raises many questions. And I think that we all have an obligation to do what we can to develop responsibly in this community.
Thank you, Marcia. Okay, there are 4 participants of record, Marcia being one. I will call out the others, see who's here. Rahim Ahmadi? No? Derek Felder?
I have a map, I didn't have it at the time, but it's just regarding storage locations.
I'm not the attorney, but Mr. Jacob will speak to that.
I discussed the topic of other commercial storages. I didn't have this handout at the time.
Commissioners, as
Yes, sir.
you are aware, if the documents weren't presented to the hearing examiner pursuant to our administrative code, you cannot be presented here.
Yeah, so sorry, Mr. Felder, if it wasn't
that's fine.
at the hearing, we can't.
I discussed the topics. I didn't know if I could make that now for you. So what this showed was, it showed all the existing storage units that we have currently in Lehigh and the surrounding communities, the additional 5 that are being proposed within Lehigh that are currently either under construction or currently already approved for construction. We don't need another storage unit. To piggyback on that, when they came to the Lehigh ARB Architectural Review Board for their public meeting, sorry, still racing from running here to get here from the parking garage. When they came to us, there was absolutely no mention of a public storage unit facility at that time. If that changed, I think they should have been required to come back to us for a second meeting that a 100,000 square foot parking storage center is a substantial change from what they originally said to us. That being said, also, I think our meeting minutes from the Lehigh ARB should be part of your packet so you can see what the community said, what the board's recommendation was, what the community public input was from that meeting. It might not be admissible, but you can at least read it and see what the public had to say about it. What they said at that meeting was 250,000 square feet of commercial, or 150,000 square feet of commercial and 300 units of family residential. Our recommendation at that meeting was to be used for commercial space only, no residential. So we were against the residential, the apartment buildings, and we were absolutely against the now commercial storage center that's being presented. So I mean, I would love to see, Lehigh lacks commercial. We need as much commercial as we can get. We have very limited supply of space for commercial. Cut the storage, cut the residential, and make it 365,000 square feet of commercial. That's all I got.
All right, thank you, Mr. Feller. Up next would be Deborah Wilkinson. Okay, that's the 4 of record. So at this point, would the applicant like to address the issues that brought up?
We're here. If you have any questions, we have our ecologist, our traffic consultant, our planner. I do have a copy of the administrative code that does speak to the rules on rehearing, so I'll submit that for the record so it will be clear what your rules are. Do you all have any questions?
I'll come back to the board at this point. Will the board any questions?
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Okay, at this time, would someone like to make a motion?
I'll move approval, Mr. Chairman, of the hearing examiner recommendation.
I'll second.
Okay, we have approval from Commissioner Hammond, a second from Commissioner Sandelli. Any further discussion? Seeing none, any objections? I'm a nay, so 3-1. Motion passes 3-1. Okay. At this time, I see no further business in front of us, so we are adjourned.